ईशावास्यम् ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं
ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं
यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत्
यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत्
यत्किन्तु जगत्यां जगत्
तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा
तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा
तत्तेन भुञ्जिता
मा गृह्ण कस्वित् धनम्.
मा गृढ
मा
कस्यचित्
गृध
धनम्
कस्यचित् धनम्.
Okay, so would someone like to read? Okay,
I could read, yes.
translation. Okay, yes, Samin Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna. So everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down through the perfect disciplic succession of spiritual masters, beginning with the Lord himself. Since he spoke the first word of Vedic knowledge, the source of this knowledge is transcendental. The words spoken by the Lord are called aparesha, which indicates that they are not delivered by any mundane person. A living being who lives in the mundane world has four defects. He is certain to commit mistakes, he is subject to illusion, he has a propensity to cheat others, and his senses are imperfect. No one with these four imperfections can deliver perfect knowledge. The Vedas are not produced by such an imperfect creature. Vedic knowledge was originally imparted by the Lord into the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples, who has handed it down through history. If you could scroll the page, please, to the next abstract. Thank you. Since the Lord is Purnam, all-perfect, there is no possibility of his being subjected to the laws of material nature, which he controls. However, both the living entities and inanimate objects are controlled by the laws of nature and ultimately by the Lord's potency. This Isopanishad is a part of Yajur Veda, and consequently it contains information concerning the proprietorship of all things existing within the universe. The Lord's proprietorship over everything within the universe is confirmed in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where para and apara prakriti are discussed. The elements of nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, all belong to the Lord's inferior material energy, para prakriti, whereas the living being, the organic energy, is his superior energy, para prakriti. Both of these prakritis or energies are emanations from the Lord, and ultimately he is the controller of everything that exists. There is nothing in the universe that does not belong to either the para or the apara prakriti, therefore everything is the property of the Supreme Being. Because the Supreme Being, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the complete person, he has complete and perfect intelligence to adjust everything by means of his different potencies. The Supreme Being is often compared to a fire, and everything organic and inorganic is compared to the heat and light of that fire. Just as fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, the Lord displays his energy in different ways. He thus remains the ultimate controller, sustainer, and dictator of everything. He is the possessor of all potencies, the knower of everything, and the benefactor of everyone. He is full of inconceivable opulence, power, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by the Lord as his quota. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Such is the arrangement of the Lord. Thus we should be satisfied with those things he has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. Take, for example, our dwelling, which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. If we think in terms of Sri Isopanishad, we must know that we cannot produce any of these building materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labor. A laborer cannot claim to be a proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. In modern society, there is always a great quarrel between the laborers and the capitalists. The quarrel has taken an international shape, and the world is in danger. Men face one another in enmity and snarl just like cats and dogs. Sri Isopanishad cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it can deliver the message of Godhead to a man through the bona fide acharyas, holy teachers. The human race should take the Vedic wisdom of Sri Isopanishad and not quarrel over material possessions. One must be satisfied with whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of the Lord. There can be no peace of the communists or capitalists or any other party claims proprietorship over the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. The capitalists cannot curb the communists simply by political maneuvering, nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the property they claim to be their own is stolen. Consequently, they will be liable to punishment by the laws of nature. Nuclear bombs are in the hands of both communists and capitalists, and if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that these bombs will ultimately ruin both parties. Thus, in order to save themselves and bring peace to the world, both parties must follow the instructions of Sri Isopanishad. Human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. They must be intelligent enough to realize the importance and aim of human life. The Vedic literature is meant for humanity and not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs can kill other animals for food without incurring sin, but if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste buds, he is responsible for breaking the laws of nature. Consequently, he must be punished. The standard of life for human beings cannot be applied to animals. The tiger does not eat rice and wheat or drink cow's milk because he has been given food in the shape of animal flesh. Among the many animals and birds, some are vegetarian and others are carnivorous, but none of them transgress the laws of nature which have been ordained by the will of the Lord. Animals, birds, reptiles, and other lower life forms strictly adhere to the laws of nature, therefore there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. Human life alone is a life of responsibility. It is wrong, however, to think that simply by becoming a vegetarian one can avoid transgressing the laws of nature. Vegetables also have life, and while it is nature's law that one living being is meant to feed on another, for human being the point is to recognize the Supreme Lord. Thus, one should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. Animals do not have developed a consciousness by which to recognize the Lord, but a human being is sufficiently intelligent to take lessons from the Vedic literature and thereby know how the laws of nature are working and derive profit out of such knowledge. If a man neglects the instructions of the Vedic literature, his life becomes very risky. A human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. He must offer everything for the Lord's service and partake only for the remnants of food offered to the Lord. This will enable him to discharge his duty properly. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord directly states that he accepts vegetarian food from the hands of a pure devotee. Therefore, a human being should not only become a strict vegetarian, but should also become a devotee of the Lord, offer the Lord all his food, and then partake of such prasadam, or the mercy of God. Only those who act in this way can properly discharge the duties of human life. Those who do not offer their food to the Lord eat nothing but sin and subject themselves to various types of distress, which are the results of sin. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience to the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. Disobeying the laws of nature of the order of the Lord brings ruin to a human being. Conversely, one who is sober, who knows the laws of nature, and who is not influenced by unnecessary attachment or aversion is sure to be recognized by the Lord and thus become eligible to go back to God, back to the eternal home. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Yat kincha jagatyam jagat. So, you know, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Whatever you see belongs to the Lord. Whatever is within the universe belongs to the Lord. Jagatyam jagat. Within this universe, whatever is there, animate, inanimate, everything belongs to the Lord. Krishna has already said in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhava, mattah sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all emanations. Everything is emanating from me. So naturally, for example, if you say you go to the presidential, palace and you see some cars, some guns, some buildings, everything belongs to the government. One will not say, okay, maybe I can try one of the presidential cars and see how it goes. No, that belongs to the president because, you can see the emblem, everything, it belongs there. So whatever you see in this creation belongs to Krishna. So, and by the will of the Lord, every living entity is given a particular quota. The fish gets its food, the tiger gets its food, and everything is very perfectly balanced. If you see, for example, the the tiger, you know, uh, gets an animal to eat every week, not more than that. Lion also, like very limited amount of food. The deer is given lots of grass to eat, but then the deer gets eaten up by the lion. So in this way, nature is balancing itself. Every living entity within this universe of the 8.4 million species of life are given their quota of nutrition by the Supreme Lord. So, what's so special about human beings? Why do we have to know all of this? The problem is that amongst these 8.4 million species, we are given a specific type of intelligence. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That intelligence by which we can understand the loophole of within this cycle of birth and death. Of course, there are 400,000 species of human beings, but human beings have this speciality that they can escape this material tabernacle, as Srila Prabhupada calls it. So this intelligence is meant to be used to understand the Supreme. Mamaeva Ansha Jeev Loke, Jeev Bhut Sanatana, Krishna is saying, every living entity is a part and parcel of me. Mana Shasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. They're struggling with their six senses, including the mind, within this material nature. Actually, everyone is struggling. One may think, oh, the eagle looks so grand flying in the sky. But eagle is not out there looking grand. The eagle is out there hunting for some mouse or something. The big lions are roaring on the savanna grasses and everything. But they are not just looking there, they're not just looking grand there. They're not just out there to win some beauty contest. They are looking out there for some animal to eat. Likewise, in human form of life, also there is just continuous struggle at all times. First when you are a child, there is struggle to maintain your health. Then there is struggle to acquire some education. Then more struggle to acquire some employment and some money to meet the needs of your life. So in this way, one who leads his human life without understanding the real purpose is actually just leading an animal life. One may think that one is very intelligent. Oh, look, we have so much technological progress. We have so much wealth. We look so beautiful. We have makeup products. Well, a lioness or a tigress won't get some L'Oreal beauty products, but humans do that. But that doesn't mean anything, because this body will deteriorate, look ugly, and die eventually. So there's no question of maintaining this beauty forever. Or, that's just a part of the mating ritual, actually eating, mating, sleeping, defending. So in this way, human life is not meant only to survive. Of course, ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha samanya vitat pashubhir naranam. It's common to all animals and humans. So human beings also need to do something to maintain their sustenance. But that's not the purpose of human life. The purpose of human life is to understand the Supreme. And when you are trying to understand the Supreme, there are certain laws. For example, you want to become a lawyer. You need to understand what is the law. You need to understand what is the criminal procedure code. You need to understand what is civil law. So you can specialize either in civil law or torts or criminal law. You can specialize, but to specialize in any particular field, you really need to understand that particular field. You need to study, you need to work hard. So in this human form of life, the objective is to understand the Supreme Lord, Parabrahma. We have to understand Brahma. So how do we do that? There are rules and regulations for it. Those rules and regulations we understand through the medium of scriptures. But scriptures themselves cannot be understood just like that. Okay, now I know I have to study scriptures, so I read it. But do I become liberated by that? No, that is not possible because there are certain laws that have to be followed. So first of all, we have to understand that everything belongs to the Supreme. So we must be like, when we go to a five-star hotel, you're paying the bill, but that doesn't mean you become the owner of that property. You cannot change the color of the bed sheets. You cannot say, okay, let's change the decor of this room. Okay, let me hang some paintings on the wall. No, you cannot do that. You're just paying for that room where you can sleep and get some facilities in the form of some, snacks or something. But you're not allowed to change it. Okay, I don't like this mirror, I'll change this. Or maybe I'll put a new television. You can't do that. So there are laws. So likewise, there are laws of living in this world, that everything belongs to the Supreme, and we have to understand. If we do not understand and we take more than what belongs to us, then we become thieves. Like if you go to this five-star hotel and you like the television there, you just unplug it and say, okay, now I have paid my rental, I can maybe take this television. No, they'll arrest you. You'll not be allowed to leave the building. So just like that, we may have worked very hard within this world, but this world does not belong to us. We have to be very careful. So we have to understand the instructions of the scriptures and follow accordingly. So in this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes a very interesting comment, that sometimes the atheistic people say that, I am very intelligent. I have acquired so much knowledge. For example, all the technology that has come, the computers, automobiles, chemical plants, medicines, we have created it. So how can you say that we are not proprietors? So the point is very simple here, that this knowledge is not yours. This knowledge is also coming from the Supreme. Mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So Krishna is giving this knowledge from within the heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. So Krishna is giving this knowledge. So even this knowledge is not yours. So if we have somehow used this knowledge and acquired some material possessions, then what is the status? So that is also very clearly understood from the scriptures, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that the knowledge of the absolute truth comes from Saraswati, who is a representative of the Supreme. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. So Nara Narayan Rishi, Narayan, uh, so Vyasadev, the Acharya, Saraswati Devi, these are representatives of the Supreme. But within this material world, the dispensation of this sort of intelligence comes from Durga Devi. Lord Shiva is the sum total of all living entities, and Durga Devi is his eternal consort. She's she's a manifestation of the external energy of the Lord, which is meant to confuse the living entities within this material world and obfuscate the truth. So she provides this intelligence by which one becomes more and more implicated in this material world. We can see this, for example, if we see East Asia or Western world, everyone is too proud of their knowledge and their accomplishments, and they have no regards for the Supreme. So this knowledge is actually an illusion perpetrated by Durga Devi herself, so that the living entity becomes more and more implicated in this kind of mundane knowledge and his own false ego. And in this way, they become more and more sinful and eventually decline into complete ignorance. So we must understand that even knowledge is coming from the Supreme, and what knowledge, how much should we take? So one should understand what is the quota set aside for him. Like, for example, if you go to the army, the meals are very well rationed. No, not more, not less. Nutritional demands have to be met exactly. Like one of my cousins was in the National Defense Academy, and he was telling me that when the boys join the academy, they are of different shapes. Someone is fat, someone is very skinny, someone is medium. But within a few months of being in the academy, they all look the same. Because their nutrition is balanced, their exercise is balanced, and in this way, they all become balanced soldiers. So in this material world also, we have to maintain that balance. How much is for me, how much I should take, and how much I should not take. So scriptures recommend. Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. So if whatever. So patram pushpam phalam toyam. So there are certain food items which are meant to be eaten, some which are not meant to be. So tad aham bhakti uparatam ashnami prayatatmana. So if it's offered with love and devotion, Krishna accepts it. Certainly one cannot offer something which Lord is not asking. So for example, if you come to my place and I know you like spicy food, then I should offer you that. I cannot say, here, let's take some boiled porridge now. This is all I can make. You may accept it. You may accept it out of courtesy or out of some etiquette, but you're not going to like it. So Lord will accept. Lord can accept everything. He can accept the whole universe because it belongs to him. but it doesn't mean necessarily that he likes it. So if we want to please the Lord, we have to offer what he likes. So in this way, the Lord specifies and we have to follow. This human form of life is meant to realize the supreme, not meant to be enjoyed. Now, in order to understand what Lord wants and how we can accomplish our duties in this world, the Varnashram process is prescribed. Varnashram means that we live strictly within our means. For example, in the previous ages, the men were very intelligent. Great personalities like Arjun, Bhim, Duryodhan, Dushasan, they were extremely intelligent people. If they could invoke, celestial weapons, that certainly requires a high degree of intelligence. Here on Earth, we have thousands of scientists sitting together to design one missile, and that missile also fails. So that is not a very good intelligence because this missile is only one type of weapon, a fire weapon. It can't do anything more than that. But in the previous ages, they knew how to invoke different types of weapons. Certainly, they had a lot of intelligence. Then why were they not developing technology? Because technology is exceeding the quota of what is prescribed. It is causing mischief to other living entities. In the Vedic Varnashram system, one strictly adheres to this. For example, 75% of the male population in a Vedic society is renounced. First, there is brahmachari, first quarter of life. Third quarter of life, one is a vanaprastha, and the fourth quarter, one is a sannyasi. So 75% of a male's life is spent in renunciation. Only 25% that is grahasthashram. In grahasthashram, as we were discussing, there are many rules and regulations. So according to the laws for a grahastha, the grahastha has to take care of the whole society. It is the grahastha who works, who earns money and pays the taxes. And these taxes are then meant to sustain the brahmacharis and sannyasis. And they also sustain the kshatriyas who maintain the whole social system. So if one is doing so much of charity, then naturally one will not be very rich. Whatever opulence comes, one does not become too attached to it. So in that way, one gradually develops renunciation from this world. So Vanaprastha, he has already practiced brahmacharya, so he's able to renounce his household life and then associate with the sadhus. Because whatever we have in this world is very temporary. It's going to stay for only a very short while and then it will be taken away. So why should one maintain so much attachment? So following the laws of Varnashram, one gradually ascends on the spiritual ladder. One gradually ascends in yoga, karma, jnana, and eventually samadhi. So whatever we are producing, that is also coming from the Lord only. So there is no question of aham mameti, I or mine. Srila Prabhupada gives a very appropriate example here that a worker may be manufacturing some very expensive equipment, but he cannot say that I have made it so it is mine. We may hear such a thing and we may laugh. The whole the complex issue of capitalist versus communist is this only. Communists say that whatever workers produce belongs to them and they should run the unit. But capitalists say that no, one who puts money there is the owner. Worker is just a worker. And then they are fighting with each other. But in reality, no one owns anything. Everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Even the capitalist, his wealth itself belongs to the Supreme. So there is no question of exerting unnecessary proprietorship over it. So Isopanishad gives us that guidance. Madgraha Kashvit Dhanam. So try to understand to whom it belongs. To whom it belongs. Now, one very important thing. Sometimes people say that, Prabhuji, I'm a vegetarian. I lead a very pious life. No, that is all nonsense. Unless you are unless your objective is to re-establish the connection with the Supreme, it is just so much nonsense. The outright atheist, demonic, will eat some meat and consider that nourishment which is meant for him. I can pay for this animal, so I'm eating it. But a so-called pious man will say, oh no, actually life is precious. I eat only vegetables. Both are nonsense. Because in both the cases, one is not trying to connect with the Supreme. One is not trying to understand to whom it belongs. I am pious. I don't cause violence. That itself is a statement of false ego. I don't cause violence. By the mere act of living in this world, we are violent. Every time we are breathing, we are killing so many living entities. The simple existence is so sinful. So, how can anyone claim that they are peaceful? Everyone is sinful. So, in this way, this material world is a very dangerous place. So, one has to use this form of human life to understand the Supreme Lord, try to understand the supreme objective of human birth. Any deviation from that is an offense. Any deviation from that is pushing us deeper into the ignorance. It binds us with sinful reactions. Therefore, if you see the spiritual traditions, whether it is Vaishnava traditions or otherwise, the saintly souls eat very less. Now, we may give the argument that by eating less, we are able to control our senses. But actually, by eating less, we are reducing the violence in this world. A Vaishnava, if we hear the story of Raghunath Das Goswami, he just used to take 1 spoon of buttermilk, or which is more like a sip of buttermilk, maybe once in 3 4 days. Because these living entities do not want to cause trouble in this material world. If you go on analyzing, you will realize how dangerous the situation is in this world, how much sin we are committing. Sometimes I know devotees love to drive cars, but when they drive these cars, they are killing so many living entities on the road, blissfully unaware of how sinful their little act of, this little act of entertainment is. This material world is an extremely dangerous place. Padam padam yat vipada. So this is for our own benefit that we become renounced. Renunciation is not there to please Krishna. Krishna is not pleased by renunciation actually, because that also we are doing out of our selfish motive. Krishna is pleased by the act of trying to establish our connection with him, sacrificing to obtain his relationship. Dharmasya apavargasya na artho arthayo kalpate na arthasya dharmaekantasya kamo labhaya hi smrita. So all the activities that we are doing are to establish our relation with the Supreme. So not for even the so-called renunciation for our own false ego is not pleasing to the Lord. Mayavadis, Buddhists, they are extremely renounced, much more so than the Vaishnavas. But that is not pleasing to the Lord because the objective is not Lord. Of course, once we have decided to become devotees of the Lord, we should not be practicing unnecessary austerities, but that doesn't mean that we should not be practicing austerities. Sometimes devotees say Yukta Vairagya. Prabhu, this is Yukta Vairagya. I enjoy driving my car, I enjoy eating opulent prasadam. This house, this palatial house is temple of the Lord. No, that is all nonsense. We have just invented some sense gratification and we are just somehow concocting some means of connecting with the Supreme. Well, Krishna will accept it. Krishna is not completely impersonal. He will accept it, but he'll not be too pleased with it. Krishna would be happier if you live in a small mud hut in Vrindavan and chant his names, Radha, Krishna. That will be pleasing to the Lord. That's the reason why great sages, great kings have renounced everything and gone to the forest to pray to the Supreme. We have the examples of Bharat Maharaj, Vishwamitra, all these great kings. They left everything to become a devotee of the Supreme, meditate on the absolute truth. So, in this way, everything should be geared for understanding the Supreme Lord. Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. The whole life is meant to have to understand the absolute truth. Nartho yascheha karmabhi. There should be no other goal of one's works. So in this way, one can understand the Supreme Lord. So that's why this vegetarian food also in very limited quantity offered to the Supreme, that is pleasing to the Lord. So according to the acharyas, one should eat only enough to keep the body and soul together, not more. This bodybuilding or this Iron Man exercise and all this atyahar, we become implicated in the sin. So for example, if you're making a small offering to the Lord and eating it, and we're getting some nourishment, we can use that to serve the Lord. But if I'm eating too much and then I become very fat and very muscular, so whatever amount of food I have eaten to sustain this body so that I could do spiritual activities, that is sinless. But extra, whatever I am acquiring, that becomes sinful. That's the reason why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would chastise brahmacharis who became fat. And he would keep on chastising until they became thin. Because extra is all atyahar. It's sinful. Eventually, it will cause our fall down. It will bring sinful reaction because some living entity had to suffer for it. Even the so-called vegetarian food is not sattvic. The tractors which are digging the field, they are killing so many insects. I mean, I used to do gardening, and I have seen so many times that if you try to dig the soil, some earthworms get killed. They get cut into two, they die. Sometimes they get crushed. So many bugs, creatures, they come. So there is so much violence involved in that. And if we use something as demonic as a tractor, that is digging up the field, that it's crushing all the soil, it is killing so many small animals. So that is also very sinful. Then fertilizers, pesticides, they're killing so many creatures. So it is all sinful. And anything extra that goes into our body will be definitely sinful. Not only that, if we eat too much of prasad also, that is also in the mode of passion. It will excite the sexual desires. It is not going to keep the mind peaceful. We'll dream too much and will become sexually agitated. So even that kind of food is not really standard for Vaishnava or Vaishnava, what to speak of Vaishnava, for any kind of sage. It hinders our progress in the process in this path because that also falls in the category of atyahar. We say we are eating Krishna prasad, but what is prasad? Prasad means mercy. When you go out on the street, you see a beggar, you give it like you give maybe 2 rupees or 5 rupees. The beggar cannot say that, oh no, madam, minimum amount is 100 rupees. No, he has to accept whatever you are giving because that's his destiny. He has to just accept what you give. He has no right. All this is a privilege for him. So living in the material world is a privilege for us. We should not abuse this. We should not claim it to be a right. Because with that mood, we cannot render service to Krishna. What is Krishna saying? What is Mahaprabhu saying? Two verses. First one, he says, Tranadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So, so Tranadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna. Humbler than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. So tree is not protesting. There may be two trees, and one tree you may give 10 liters of water, the other tree you may not give anything. But tree is not going to shake its branches at you. It just accepts whatever comes. And what is it that we aspire for? That's Mahaprabhu mentions in the second verse. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir ahetu kitvayi. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim. Neither do I want lots of wealth, nor followers, nor beautiful women. Nor do I even want lots of intelligence. I just want to be your humble servant life after life. So, in other words, a devotee doesn't even want liberation from material nature. So, these are standards of Vaishnava understanding, by which we can actually progress in spiritual life. Chanting of the holy names and reading of Gita is all nice. But beyond this, we have to change our consciousness. Understanding Bhagavad Gita or chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, these are privileges, these are not rights. It's not something to be neglected. But to understand this privilege, we must follow these rules and regulations which the Isopanishad is mentioning. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience to the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. So we have to understand who, kasvit dhanam, to whom it belongs, and then act accordingly. Then will be detached from this world, then we'll progress in spiritual life. So developing humility, developing detachment to material nature, and at the same time rendering prayer to the Supreme Lord in that mood. So understanding that everything belongs to the Lord, that is the basis. And then you have to delve deeply into this thought process. It's not that, okay, today I'm hearing Isopanishad, I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, tomorrow I'll go and party with some sinful people. No, then this knowledge will have contrary result actually. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that if one neglects the spiritual instructions in such a way, then the Bhakti Vinod Thakur actually, then the very holy name will become the cause of destruction. One should not, like even the Christians know this much. In Christianity, thou shalt not take thy Lord's name in vain. But when we chant Hare Krishna and indulge in sinful activities or grossly material activities, then we are taking the Lord's name in vain. And that becomes an offense. What to speak of bhakti that eventually will drown us in the darkness of ignorance. The chanting of holy names itself will drown us in ignorance. Because the Lord will understand what is the true desire. We are calling Him and what we are desiring. So He will fulfill that desire and will be completely lost in this material world. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Ramakrishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
The scriptures reveal to us that when we pray to Lord Vishnu and we are having material desires, then Lord Vishnu is known for not satisfying the material desires. In fact, if he finds that our material desires and ambitions are actually a hindrance for our spiritual progress, in fact, he berefts us of whatever we have also. So, how do we understand these statements? Like sometimes he gives, sometimes he doesn't give.
See, Vishnu, Krishna neither gives nor takes. Krishna does what is beneficial for our spiritual life. But of course, that depends on what is our desire really. What is our desire really? See, sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto bhaktah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So Krishna definitely knows what is our desire. So many times devotees come and say, Prabhuji, actually, we can't attend the Gita session. We need to take care of children. Actually, that's just an excuse. No one says that, oh, I cannot eat food today because I have to take care of children. No one says that I didn't take shower today because I didn't have to take care of children. No, those things are done on time. But devotees always compromise on chanting or reading or other activities because our priorities are different. See, I'm not trying to pass judgment here. What I'm saying is Krishna fulfills our priorities. He's the father. He's the father of all living entities. He will fulfill the desire. Actually, he is the origin of all fulfillment of desires. So naturally, the desires will be fulfilled by Krishna only. So if the devotee is materialistic, Krishna will fulfill that desire and take him out of devotion because he knows exactly, okay, this devotee just wants some money, wealth, and he wants some pious life. He'll just shunt him out. He'll not give the transcendental knowledge that the devotee is thinking of, not desiring, just thinking of. That's why we see so many years and devotees are not progressing at all. They're stuck at one position because devotees are not really desiring Krishna. So Krishna will fulfill the desire, but he does take away. So let's take the example of Srila Prabhupada. What better example can we give? Srila Prabhupada desired to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master, and he was qualified to do it, but he was being stuck in his obligations. So Krishna destroyed those obligations. Srila Prabhupada did not have much attachment for his family life. He was there because it was an obligation that had to be fulfilled. So Krishna took it away. But he will not take it away from someone who's not interested, because such a person will become disheartened. And then Krishna will be ungrateful if he does that. So it's complex, but very commonsensical. If we think, it's not so complicated really, but it requires a bit of thinking, which actually requires a little bit of desire for Krishna. If it's not there, then we can fulfill all the formalities. So many times devotees go to Vrindavan. Prabhuji, I'm going there. And I say, don't go, it's offensive. No, no, I have to go there. So what they do is they will not tell me and they'll go there and then say, now we are in Vrindavan. Well, what will you see there? Just going to Vrindavan and saying Barsane wali Radhe Radhe, it doesn't make anyone a gopi. This is all nonsensical behavior, whimsical nonsense. So if one is going to is Vrindavan, one should go to only ISKCON temple and stay there because that's where our parampara is. But then going to, oh, I'm going to see Seva Kunj, I'm going there, I'm going here, I saw this place. Actually, we saw nothing. We just saw some land in UP. You know, just go 40, 50 kilometers here and there. You are in Delhi, you won't even realize. Faridabad looks the same as Mathura. Or you go to district Aligarh, that also looks the same as Vrindavan. No one can make out that difference. So many ponds and streams in Vrindavan are not really authentic. They are just some overruns. But people think, oh, these are holy ponds. And Brajvasis also take advantage of that. They cheat some foolish devotees from Bombay and all that. Okay, this is that Leela where Radhaji took bath, and that's some agricultural pond, which was just made like maybe 10 years ago. But people get fooled like this because there is no realization. So that realization will come when we are very deep into our practice. I'm not saying more and more. I'm not saying 24-hour chanting, but 1 hour chanting you're doing, you meditate very deeply, recalibrate the objective of your life. Then Krishna will fulfill the desire. Otherwise, Durga Devi. Yes. Anyone else has any question or comment? Okay, so there was one more question here from yeah, Anu Mataji had a question here. Wait, what was that? Hmm. Okay, yeah. So how to soul and body together is very subjective based on individual to individual. So how do we standardize to know what's enough for us? Well, if we are becoming fat, then we are eating more. If we are always feeling full, we're eating much more. Actually, the rule is like this, that a Vaishnava eats whatever he can carry within his two palms, and preferably 2 times or 1 time, not that one is eating 3 meals plus some snacks, plus this, plus that. No, no, no. The food should be palatable, offerable to Krishna, palatable food, but little bit, not too much. You should still feel hungry after finishing. Srila Prabhupada used to eat 2 rotis with little bit of dal, little bit of 2 spoon of sabji. So that's the standard. Because when we are feeling a little hungry, first of all, this hunger is in the mind, not really that the body needs it. So when we are eating little, the senses become more under our control. Naturally, because it is less sinful, so senses come more and more under our control, and then we can become more detached. Right? Okay, so any other question or comments here?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One more question, Ji. Thank you for
Yeah.
answering that one. So, Prabhuji, when you said, even eating vegetarian food is, unless it's offered to Krishna, it's still considered you're killing the living being and you're
Yeah.
taking that. So in that sense, if that's the, of course, goal down the road, if we consider our current situation, we work, there's work, there's housework. So there's a lot of mental disturbances here, there, everywhere. By the time you are sitting for your sadhana or you're sitting for a reading, the mind actually looks for a break. That whether the body says I need 5-10 minutes or whatever that is. That means that's also considered kind of, I mean, if we look at the long run goal, that is also considered a kind of enjoyment that we are looking for. Though we are just trying to just break the things that were going on, just pull back the mind so you can focus.
Okay, so let's break this question into 2 parts. One is working, the second one is enjoyment. Right? Okay, so what does Bhagavad Gita say? Yuktahara viharasya yuktestasya karmasu. Yukta sapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So yuktahar and vihar. Okay, now here one important point is, what is we saw this verse, dharmasya apavargasya. In fact, Srila Prabhupada has given a whole lecture on explaining the meaning of the word apavarga. See, dharmasya hi apavargasya na artho arthayo kalpate. Human life is meant to realize the supreme. We should not work so hard that this foam is coming out of our mouth. Meaning we shouldn't be working like donkeys to make a living. If you see, for example, now you are in the IT industry, you must have heard of this 996 rule, which is like becoming the new buzzword, at least in the AI industry. 996 meaning 9 to 9, 6 days a week. So 72 hours per week, effectively, exceeding up to, say, 90 hours a week. So
Send them to mental hospital.
Pardon?
That seems like mental asylum. Need to go to mental asylum then. Need to go
Yeah,
mental
so
asylum after, if it's 6
yeah,
days a week,
so
that many hours.
yeah, so that's going to be the new culture, 996. So that's the point, that's the whole point. So why are we working so hard? Why are we working? To sustain life.
Mm.
We don't live to work, we
Mhm.
work to live.
Mhm.
And what is the life for a Vaishnava? Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Only one should live only to inquire about the absolute truth, because that is the purpose of life. So if this work is hindering our spiritual life, then work itself is nonsense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Imagine if I tell you that, okay, I am your boss. You have to work from 9 to 9, no meal breaks. Don't eat. Sorry. Eat before 9 o'clock and eat after 9 p.m. What will you tell me? You'll probably go to Human Rights Commission.
No, thank you. I don't need that job. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Because you need food to live, right? I mean, it's just common sense that what is the purpose? How will you work? So likewise, the purpose of life itself is to inquire about the absolute truth. If that itself we are not able to do, then what are we even doing? So, so we need to, recalibrate our priorities. What do we want? If this work is not allowing us to even chant or read, then we better quit that work, because the purpose of life itself is not getting fulfilled there. Krishna will provide. Avashya rakshibe Krishna. So we should take up work yukta ahara viharasya, yukta karmasya cheshtasu. So let's go word by word. Yukta means regulated, ahara eating, viharasya recreation, yukta regulated, cheshtasya of one who works for maintenance, karmasu in discharging duties. So of course Srila Prabhupada says that he who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So yukta cheshtasya karmasu. The work should be appropriate. Not that, okay, I'm working like a donkey 24 hours a day and then I'm saying, Prabhu, I can't do this. Well, too bad. If the doctor says take the medicine, it's for our benefit. Doctor is not benefiting from us eating the medicine. So if
Yes.
Krishna says, please do this, then it's for our benefit. And if we neglect it, we'll suffer.
Yes.
Right?
ठीक है जी. ठीक है जी. I think second answer, I got the second answer already too.
Okay, so
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much.